Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join our webinar. My name is Matthew Maurer, and I am a marketing coordinator at Coastal Business Supplies. I am joined today by none other than Jimmy Lamb of Sawgrass Technologies. Jimmy is the manager of education and communications at Sawgrass, and he has over 25 years of experience in the apparel decoration industry. Today, he will be talking to us about the awareness market and how your sublimation business can excel in it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy Lamb. Thank you, Jimmy.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Good to be here as always. And so today we're going to look at making money with sublimation in the awareness market. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what is the awareness market? Well, awareness is just like it sounds. It's the promotion of a concept or a cause. And in many cases, it's on a large scale, but not always. Sometimes these things are really just more local oriented. And there are a lot of different types of awareness organizations out there. And when you really start looking at the list, and we're going to talk about some different causes and stuff as we go, it's actually amazing how many different ones are out there. Many of them use something as simple as a ribbon for their symbol to try and get the message out there. And I think everybody recognizes the pink ribbon since that's tied into breast cancer awareness. And they've done a fantastic job in that particular cause of making people aware through different products and signage and activities and events and whatnot. Okay, so but that's just one of many. I mean, I think all of us growing up, we've seen the lung cancer ads, the Heart Association, just all these different kind of groups like that, and they're all tied into that. Now, you may turn around and call them charities and whatever, but a lot of times this isn't so much a charity. It's an organization that's working to defeat something. In the case of with breast cancer awareness, breast cancer, obviously. So there's many different causes out there where certainly they raise money, but it's, to me, I don't really call them a charity because they're raising the money and putting it into research to try and take care of that cause. So that means that they have a need to reach out to people. And we have a lot of different products that could help them do that. But before you even start looking at products, the key is to really kind of understand organizations, understand how they operate, so that you can get some ideas that might be useful for servicing any particular awareness cause. That ribbon, as I was mentioning, now you'll see ribbons, but you'll also see a lot of wristbands. Wristbands are very popular too, so there's a lot of different wristbands for different causes as well. But definitely the ribbon is that really well-known symbol. In fact, there is a whole listing of ribbons. Okay, I'm going to show you a few in just a minute, and I'm going to send you to a website where you don't have to go today that I want you to take a look at, because someone has actually gone out and cataloged the ribbons and the colors and all these different things and causes that are out there. So that becomes a really good resource for you to kind of research. For example, the blue ribbon that you see here. Blue ribbons are associated with over 35 different causes, including, but not limited to, addiction recovery, arthritis, colon cancer, Epstein-Barr virus, restless leg syndrome. There's a whole list of them. And that website there is very interesting. You might want to write it down. It's a little bit long. Take a minute and write it down, because if you want to know more about the awareness marketplace, this is a great place to go, because they list out the different colored ribbons and what they're associated with. And in many cases, they have links to organizations that pursue that particular cause. So I think you can find a lot of good information there. So again, just take a few minutes and write that down. But that was amazing to see that there's 35 different causes with blue ribbons. By the way, everyone associates the pink ribbon with breast cancer, but there's actually some other causes that also are represented by a pink ribbon. So just to make you aware. All right. Some examples of sublimated products for awareness. If you start looking through the Coastal website, you're going to find some great ideas in there. And That's a big key, is thinking about great ideas. So I'm going to show you some of the different ideas here that I think fit pretty good into that marketplace. One here is the ribbon magnet. So it actually looks like a ribbon, but you can, of course, decorate it with anything you want on it or any color that you wish to use. Here we have a keychain that, again, is in the shape of a ribbon. And this one happens to be autism awareness in this particular example. I will tell you, black ribbons have a lot of awarenesses. One of those is also the victims of 9/11. That's tied into black ribbons. So when you start researching, again, a lot of different things out there that we could pursue. We don't have those rubber wristbands because they don't really sublimate. They tend to melt, okay? But if you go looking, there's other forms of wristbands, bracelets, that can be sublimated. And it's a pretty cool product if you've actually never worked with it. Coastal has a couple of different sizes available. You're basically taking a straight strip and you're doing the sublimation and then curving it into the bracelet shape. So it becomes a great awareness type of product that you can decorate for, really for any direction that you want to go. Car flags. A lot of times people do use car flags to, carry on an awareness that they're trying to let people be taking notice of. Here I put the POWMIA symbol. I do see that one a lot, okay, out and about, because there are still people missing from some of the wars like Vietnam and Korea, and this is in remembrance of them and the fact that they are still missing and unaccounted for. There's different jewelry products out there. A lot of times when we look at the charm bracelets, we're thinking about, and we see them advertised with, pictures of the children or the grandchildren or whatnot on there. Here you can see the warrior symbol. And the warrior symbol, I believe, is for suicide awareness and prevention. So those charms that have been nice, cute presents for mom and grandma suddenly become very useful as awareness products. Okay, that can easily be made. In fact, the nice thing about that, you can take a charm bracelet for somebody that has multiple causes and put all of them on the charms onto that particular bracelet. So keep that one in mind as well. Here is a phone cover, and I'm trying to remember, it looks almost pinkish, but it's not pinkish, and I have forgotten which one that one was for. I'm sorry. But phone covers are a great way. And, anytime we do anything with phone covers, one of the things to think about is always that kind of that retail perspective of, can I equip somebody with multiple phone covers? Because phone covers are a way that people can, show their personality. They can display causes in this case. They can show their favorite sports teams or whatever. So the idea is that people understand that they can snap on a different phone case for any given day of the week, depending on what mood they're in or what they want to feature. And same thing here. If they have multiple causes, make some. Now, keep in mind, some of the images you'll see as we go through, they're not mine. They are copyrighted. I just borrowed them to show you because I like the way that people become creative. And I think that's a big important part of anything that you want to do if you want to work with any of these organizations, is becoming creative. One of the downsides of ribbons such as this is if you don't know what it's for, then you don't know what it's for. So a lot of times if you're doing something with a graphic and a ribbon, putting in their text which defines the cause is going to go a lot more further for making people aware than just seeing a purple ribbon or a pink ribbon or a black ribbon. Mugs, great way to do it here. This is for Down syndrome, by the way. Down is the new up. So, another way that we can, easily put products in people's hands to carry that message, okay? And that's what it's all about, carrying that message. A lot of this is sort of like a promotional product, because the idea of a promotional product is brand awareness. But the true awareness market that we're talking about is awareness of causes, okay, special causes. So, yeah, we're trying to accomplish kind of the same thing, so we can use some of the same types of products. And never forget apparel, obviously. Lots of different things we can do with apparel. And I like when I see things that are unique and interesting to look at like this. I don't like things that are like basic block letters. They bore the heck out of me, okay? So again, if I want to promote a cause, I want to make sure people see it clearly, know what it is, and I make an impact statement. So think about that again in your designs when you're talking to your potential customers. So when we talk about products, one of the things to think about is special events, okay? Because a lot of these organizations use special events to fulfill their need to raise money. And if you're going to talk to somebody, if you're going to go talk to an organization about helping them raise money and increase their awareness, then look in to see if they're doing special events, and then think about things you could do for the special events, such as signage, awards, apparel, promotional products, all those kind of things. And that might be an area where you actually would be doing your best opportunity for making money. So let's talk a little bit about that fundraising angle of special events, and just to kind of look at some ideas and things. Here I've chosen just a generic event, which in this case is a 5K color run. So you start thinking about what are the things that are being used in these different types of events, because a lot of these organizations use walks and runs to raise money as well as increase awareness. So we start talking about signage. There's all kinds of signage that's required for any kind of event. Where's a registration desk? Where's a starting line? Where do spectators go? All these kind of things. And we're in the perfect position to make signage and to put everything we want on there. I mean, and realistically, everything in the signage should be about their cause. I'm just using generic items here. But the reality is you should be creating ones that clearly are promoting the cause that the event is all about. Think about sponsor signage as well, because in addition to signage for here's where you go, here's what you do, then everyone who's sponsoring the event should be paying to put together a sponsor sign. A lot of times the organization takes on that, that price because they already got the money from the sponsor and they use part of the money to make the sign. Sometimes they actually have the sponsor make their own, but whatever. So again, you start thinking if there's a lot of big sponsors, there's a lot of signs that can be made. Maybe it's posted along the event route or wherever. It might be multiple signs for any given sponsor. Then always my favorite stuff, just the, every day, like, where's the bathroom? That's really important, okay? That's probably one of the most important signs you could ever produce. But the thing is if you're sitting down with someone to talk about signage for their event, you want to think about every potential angle there is so that you bring them up, because a lot of times planners don't think about all these things. And by you thinking about them, A, you're helping them out, and B, you're probably increasing your sales potential. And then we have the awards, of course. When people win, these runs or whatever, you definitely want to do awards. And a photo award beats everything. I mean, it really does. These are kind of cute because, again, it's a 5K color run, which means people throw paint on each other, okay? That's why they have these interesting skin tones. But it's one of these things where, in theory, if you had a mobile sublimation system, you could actually be there taking pictures of people as they cross the line and making those awards so they could actually be handed out instead of them being told, oh, you'll get your award in the mail. It's just something to think about, because, it's one more thing you can kind of offer up. Hey, we can make real-time awards right there. You just, take the pictures, bring us over the pictures, and give us the text, and we'll make the awards, and you can hand them right out, right after the event. So, awards definitely have a place in all of this. And then, of course, the apparel. Now, apparel kind of goes two different directions. A lot of times and I'm using a 5K run again, they're giving the runner apparel, to actually wear. And that's usually those tank tops. And then a lot of times they're also selling the apparel because that ad brings in revenue, through source selling products, and apparel being a very popular one for that. As well, you start talking about other things, promotional products, the socks, man. Anytime you're talking about a 5K run, you should be showing them socks. And I've seen some, just going back to the cause of breast cancer awareness, when I was just looking through a lot of things, doing some research, there were some awesome socks that people created, with that whole pink theme in there. So, socks actually do play a big part, something we do with sublimation. The item on the right is actually a Christmas ornament. So there, or a magnet. I mean, there are a couple of different things that come in shirt shapes. So all those things tie in. So if you're going to work with the event, you never just go to them and say, oh, I think you got a great cause and I'd like to sell you something. I mean, the idea is you go in and say, listen, we think you have a great cause and we would like to show you some ideas that you might be able to use to further the awareness level of your cause, and then maybe help you generate some revenue for, for your research funds, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you really want to kind of figure this out before you just show up. So your sales and marketing play becomes really important, because you want to go in there with a good message, not just randomly showing up at the door. All right, so one of the first things you want to think about is, what can you do? Okay, and I would go back to that webpage I gave you earlier, and I just start researching all these different organizations. Try to figure out which ones maybe have a big presence in your local community, so it's easy for you to go find them and talk to them, etc. And then start thinking about what kind of products could be offered. And as I say all the time with sublimation, it's not always what it is, it's what we put on it that defines what it is. Okay, so in theory, any product could work. Okay, doesn't mean that they all would, but could. Okay, so we have hard surface items, apparel items. We got wood and metal and acrylic and glass and stone and all those kind of things. I also try to look sometimes at if it's an event, what kind of event and what products seem to complement that event. If you're talking about just pure awareness things that people do every day, that's where those bracelets come into play, the charms come into play, the cell phones come into play, and some apparel products as well. Those are things to think about. Also, just that awareness level, like, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so everything turns pink. I mean, some airlines paint their airplanes pink. Well, at least one plane, will be pink. I saw online a pink ribbon with a Pittsburgh Steelers logo, like, in the middle of it, because you will see that. You'll see a lot of professional football teams will be supporting it by wearing something pink, in some of their football games and whatnot. So you think about what's there, what's going on, and then how to tie all that stuff into play. And you can certainly do that with sublimation. Now, you're going to be competing against other programs and other concepts, and taking some time to see all the cool things that are out there, and then trying to think of a new and different way and a different product that you can put into someone's hands goes a long way. If you just go out there and you take a coffee mug and you put a pink ribbon on there, well, there's probably tons of coffee mugs out there with pink ribbons. So how can you do it different? How can you make it more unique? Why not? Even a lot of people, you like to use their pets. And you do pet bandanas that have the calls. And so the pet wears it, especially if the whole month is, around a cause or something, because people notice that, and that's the whole point of awareness, is that people notice that. So I look for things that stand out, that are different. I like exciting and unique. I like fun. I like things that are fun, somehow fun. Just figure it out, okay? Somehow fun. And then also just having flexibility for the user. Different, like the phone covers, different phone covers with different looks and all. You could do a whole series of phone covers, so maybe 5 phone covers all around the same calls, but with totally different graphics, where people get to kind of mix and match again what they're using on their phone on any given day of the week. A lot of these things that you're going to be offering up are going to be resold, and that's probably some of the trickiest pricing of all, because the fact that you have to be able to develop margins that your customer is able to go out and make some decent money, because if they can't, then they're not interested. And your goal should always be that the customer could make at least a 50% margin, okay, on, and ideally they would keep 60% of the selling price. So, I mean, if it was selling for $10, they keep $5, or ultimately $6 would be even better for them, right? So you got to think about it when you start showing samples of what will people pay for this, and how can we make sure that our customer who's actually doing the selling is getting the maximum return, because that's what they're trying to do, is raise money. Make it as flexible as you can. I typically tell the customer to reset the retail price anywhere they want. And of course, I have a wholesale price, so they're gonna have to work from that. But you got to think those things through. And a lot of times you get a little bit grumpy when you do it, because you realize that it's like you're splitting your profits with them. But you have to look at it from another point of view. There's 2 points of view here. The first point of view is making money and maybe a long-term relationship and a lot of products. The second is you're also making more people aware of you. So by working through calls, you usually can get yourself in front of a lot more people too, who have more respect for you, especially if you've donated some things to that cause as well as sold things to that cause, because then people have more respect for you and tend to, that catches the attention a lot of times of local people with local businesses. Just something to think about, okay? And then, of course, you got to build a sample kit. Choose any calls that you want and build your sample kit, okay? And then focus on products with good margins. Make it creative and exciting. Build it around a market, okay? A whole market, not around a customer, And here's the other thing, too. If you built one around, Epstein-Barr virus awareness, you go ahead and you build it out, and you don't have to build one for every calls. I mean, the idea is that you could take that one and show it to any other calls. I mean, they're going to see all the products. Difference is the color and the words, right? So, keep that part in mind. Build you a really good sample, but one that you can show to multiple groups within the market, not just a different one for every organization. But it doesn't hurt to have something that's tailored specifically to the customer that you're talking to. So maybe you did make a wrist bracelet for whatever the cause or the organization you went to talk to. You made one and you gave it to the person you're talking to. That's to their organization, not just a generic one. So sample kits are a powerful thing. Visual is a powerful thing, and sublimation is a powerful thing. So awareness market, a lot of opportunities there. I really don't go down a whole list of all the awareness groups. I mean, that's for you to go look for. Most of us, when we start looking through these lists, you're going to get cross-eyed. So the reality is to try and hone in on ones that maybe have an interest to you, because then you feel even better about working that particular marketplace. Great graphics. I can't say enough about that. A lot of them will be creative, but a lot of them are simple. If you have our SG400 or SG800 or VJ628, I always recommend you to take a look at Creative Studio. Even if you routinely don't use Creative Studio, you use Photoshop, CorelDRAW, those programs, nothing wrong with that. But Creative Studio has a lot in it, and it has a lot of clip art in it. And that's one of the reasons you should look at it, because you got it at no charge when you bought your Sawgrass Virtuoso printer system. So take a look at it. And there's been a lot of improvements to it. And I know a lot of people who are traditional, Photoshop people who are now using this, not in place of Photoshop, but they're using it a lot more often, because sometimes it's a shortcut to producing, number one. And number two, as I said, it has plenty of clip art, graphical elements, and all those things in there that you can use to help you with your business and creating your different images. Okay, so wrapping up, you got to get paid. That's important. When you're thinking about pricing, also think about getting paid. Don't get into the business of consignments, because a lot of times you're working with these groups, and they're all pretty much nonprofits. Some of the smaller ones are like, hey, how about if we pay you in 30 days after we sell all this stuff? And, because once you lose control of the merchandise, you kind of lose control of the situation. So they really need to pay you up front. If they do some kind of customization program where different end users customize products, the end users pay the organization who then pays you. And they keep their own cut that way. See, that's the other thing is they're keeping their cut. They're just paying you for your cut. You don't want to have to chase after bad debts. Trust me, been there, done that. That's not what you want. So getting paid is important to lay that out. And, you know, all these things I try to lay out as a true program. I mean, if you're just spitting stuff off the top of your head, it doesn't look like it. If you have things kind of spelled out, you know, written price list, written payment policies, all those kind of things, you know, you just look more professional and takes you, you know, a lot further with that particular customer. So awareness products, just summing it all up, a unique approach to bring in new customers to your business, okay? And the focus here is always unique products, profitable margins, a turnkey sales system. You got to make it easy for them if they're reselling it, and an initiative to make it happen. All this stuff takes a lot of work, man. It's not like just drop in and it's done. You got to put a lot of work and forethought into it, and the more you know about an organization, the better, because then you're able to talk to them directly about their needs. As I tell everybody, sales is about fulfilling needs. People have needs. If you can fulfill them and they like what you have to offer, it's a good chance you can get the sale. So always be thinking about what their needs are, understand what their needs are, and a lot of times you can identify more needs than they know of and point those out as well. So that's how we make it all happen. Okay, then, Matthew, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for having me out.
All right. Thank you so much, Jimmy, and thank you again to everyone for attending our webinar today. Hope to see you next month.